Today you will learn how to solve linear equations in one variable by using the properties of equality and reciprocals. Let's focus on question number 34. Negative 6.1 equals p plus 2.2. You need to solve the equation, which means you need to find out what p is. You need to isolate p. You need to get rid of positive 2.2. So let's go in with a negative 2.2 because you need to get rid of this. Whatever you do on one side, you do the same thing on the other side. Negative 2.2. Make sure that you put the line. Make sure that you copy all the steps down. Positive 2.2, negative 2.2 cancels out. You are only left with a p, which is what you need to do. So negative 6.1, negative 2.2. And the way we're going to do the calculations on the calculator looks like this. 6.1 negative minus 2.2 equals negative 8.3. Negative 6.1 combines with the negative 2.2 to give you negative 8.3. Let's focus on question number 36. Once again, you need to isolate what a is. You need to get a alone. Now look at the operation between the number and the variable. You do not see any sign. If there is not any sign, you take it as multiplying. So negative 3.3 multiplies a. Since you want to get rid of this, you do the opposite. Here in the question, it is multiplying. So you are going to do the opposite by dividing by negative 3.3. The line implies division. Whatever you do on one side, you do the same thing on the other side. Cancel, and you got a equals, let's focus on the calculator, 19.8 divided by 3.3 negative equals negative 6. So you got 38, question number 38, and divided by 4.6. You take this as a division question. So you need to isolate n, which means you need to get n alone. So in this case, it's divided by 4.6. The opposite of dividing by 4.6 will be to multiply by 4.6 on this side and to multiply by 4.6 on this side. Remember, whatever you do on one side, you do the same thing on the other side of the equal sign. Now, if I were to put a line on the bottom and put a 1, I do not change the value because 4.6 divided by 1 still gives me the same thing. So 4.6 on the top and 4.6 on the bottom. Watch what I'm doing. 4.6 on the top and 4.6 on the bottom, they both can be divided by 4.6. So 4.6 divided by 4.6 gives me a 1. And the bottom 4.6 divided by 4.6 also gives me a 1. 1 times n is n. 1 times 1 is 1 times n is n, 1 times 1 is 1. So you got negative 2.5 times 4.6. Use your calculator and you're going to get negative 11.5. N divided by 1 is going to be n. So n is 11.5, which is the final answer. Look at question number 42. You got negative 7 equals 1 over 5 x. I'm going to pull a line to look like this. Now x is on the top, 5 is on the bottom, which means x is divided by 5. I do not like the number which is being divided by 5. I need to get rid of this 5. Since the 5 is dividing in the question, I am going to multiply by 5 to get rid of this. Whatever I'm doing, I'm also going to do the same thing on this side. And I'm also going to put a dot to imply that I am multiplying. 5 on the top, 5 on the bottom, 5 and 5. They both can be divided by 5. So 5 divided by 5 gives me a 1 and 5 divided by 5 gives me a 1. So I am going to get 1 times x is x times 1 is x, and the 1 on the bottom, and 5 times negative 7 is negative 35. Use the calculator, and x divided by 1 is x, so x is negative 35. The same thing if I were to show you, all I were to do is negative 7 equals 1 over 5x. 5 is being divided, so the opposite of dividing by 5 will be to multiply by 5 on this side and multiply by 5 on this side. Now watch what I'm doing. The 5 on the top and the 5 on the bottom, I'm going to cancel them out. So all I'm going to get is 1 times x is x, 7 times 5, negative 7 times 5 is going to give you negative 35, which is still the same answer. Let's focus on question number 46. 8 over 5x equals 4 over 15. There are many ways to get the answer on this question. This is just one among the many ways. So I am going to get rid of the 5. Keep in mind, I need to isolate x. So anything that is tagging along with the x needs to go away. So if I pull this line through, it means the 5 is being dividing the x. I need to get rid of this 5. So since it is on the bottom, which means dividing, I am going to do the opposite, which is multiplying. So I'm going to multiply this side by 5, and I'm going to multiply this side by 5. 5 on the top, 5 on the bottom, I'm going to cancel. Because if you look at it, 5 and 5, they both can be divided by 5. 5 divided by 5 gives me a 1. 5 divided by 5 gives me a 1. 1 over 1 is going to give me a 1. So on the left side, I got 8x. Now on the right side, that looks like a fraction. I'm going to stick a 1 on the bottom to make it look like a fraction. Now remember, you are multiplying. So I'm looking for friendly numbers. I have a 5 on the top and a 15 on the bottom. They both look friendly because they both can be divided by 5. 5 divided by 5 gives me a 1. 15 divided by 5 gives me a 3. 4 times 1 is 4. 3 times 1 is 3. Now if I look at it, the job is still not done because I'm still have to get rid of the 8. So you got an x. Now what's the sign between 8 and x? There is nothing. There is no plus, minus, multiply, divide. So which means 8 is tagging along with x, so you take it as 8 is multiplying x. So since we are doing the opposite, you do the opposite of multiplying by 8 as dividing by 8 on this side and dividing by 8 on this side. So what you're going to do is 8 on the top and 8 on the bottom, 8 divided by 8 is going to become a 1. So all I'm left with is just an x. And 4 over 8 times 3 is 24. Simplify this by 4, simplify this by 4 to give you 1 over 6. And that is the final answer. Now look at question number 50. You are given a triangle and they are asked to write and solve an equation to find the value of x. So they need you to find x. X in this case happens to be the height. So the height of the triangle. Now if you remember the formula for the area of triangle, in this case is going to be base times height divided by 2. So the area of the triangle, they gave you to be as 72. So I'm going to replace something that I already know to be as 72. The area, I'm getting it from the question, which is 72. So now, if I'm going to look at the base is 16. I'm going to replace b by 16, and height is what they need, divided by 2. Now look on the left side, 72. 16 divided by 2. 16 on the top, 2 on the bottom. 16, 2. 16 divided by 2 gives you 8. So 8h. Now I need to isolate what the height is, which is what they are asking you to find. So 8 and h, there is nothing in between. So 8 is multiplying h. So let's do the opposite. Let's divide this by 8 and let's divide this by 8. 8 on the top and 8 on the bottom. 8 divided by 8 gives you a 1. So all you're left with is just a h, and 72 divided by 8 is going to be 9. So the height of the triangle in this case is 9. This is one question. I would prefer that you do it, and we will check the answer together. Solve for y. Y minus 7 equals negative 3. Solve this question and get the answer, and let's check the ends together in the class.